Okay, normally I start this by saying we need to have a main idea line, but we have to change it up a little bit because there are two possibilities in this unit. Either we're going to have two different subjects, so we're going to have both boys and girls, and they are doing some action. Or we're going to have one subject, so we're going to have one student, and that student is going to be doing two different things. And so we have to decide which of these two diagrams we're looking at. So for number one, because we're doing 4.0, and on number one, we have Ms. Canaday teaches at Greenway and writes in her spare time. So how many subjects do we have? Ms. Canaday, that's one. And then there are two actions that Ms. Canaday takes, teaching and writing. So we are looking at this diagram here. So we have Ms. Canaday, and then we put the line to separate our subject side from our verb side, teaches and writes. And then we want to join these two actions and basically say, look, we have both of them. And so we have and. That is the basic main idea. One subject taking two actions. Well, now we need to start placing our prepositional phrases. Ms. Canaday teaches at Greenway. Where does the teaching happen? Well, it happens at Greenway. And of course, you should recognize at as a preposition. The minute you have a preposition, you put a prepositional phrase bracket in. Where does she teach? At Greenway. And then, of course, in her spare time, hopefully you recognize in as being another preposition. Her, not a noun. Spare, not a noun. Time is a noun. So that's the object of the preposition or the noun that ends it. So if we have a preposition, we put in a prepositional phrase bracket. We, on the angle, put the preposition, the relationship word. On the flat, we put the noun. And then once I erase that stuff and get it out of the way, you can put in the two modifiers, her and spare. Okay, let's do another one. Boys and girls can learn from her. Well, we only have one action, and that is learning. But we actually have two different groups that are doing that. We have boys and girls, and both of them are learning. So what we have here are two subjects, and both of those subjects are taking one action. So that gives us boys as one subject, girls as the other subject. The verb is can learn. And then, of course, we have to separate our subject side from our verb side. So now we have boys, girls, can learn. These two have to be joined together. That is going to give us an and. That leaves one last phrase from her. Of course, from is that preposition relationship word. Her is going to be the noun. Well, is it a boys from her, a girls from her, or is it that you can learn from her? Well, learn. This is describing learn. So we drop in the prepositional phrase bracket, from and her. If you're still struggling with the prepositional phrases, please go back and review the chapter 3. Now the next one, number 3, so we're on 4.0, number 3 now, is the student's blue and white packet was left on the bookcase in the corner. Well, I only have one action. It was left. What was it that was left? The packet. So what is my and joining together? Well, it's not a blue packet, it's not a white packet, it's a blue and white packet. So we have to join those two words together, but those are danglies. So let's set that aside for a minute and diagram our main idea. Since I only have one subject and one verb, I'm back to a nice clean subject-verb line. So what is it that happened? Well, the action is left. Of course, was moves us into the past, so that's a helping verb. What was it that got left? Packet. So packet was left is our main idea, and now I can start placing my danglies, which should be pretty straightforward. I have the. I have students. Please, I keep begging you guys to realize if you have an apostrophe S, that means it's not a noun. If I say my dad's car, I'm talking about a car, not my dad. So remember, possessives are not nouns. So the students, I now have these two danglies that are kind of working together. Blue, if I could spell it right, and white. These are the two words that are joined together. Now, how do I join them together? Well, I know I need to have a dotted line. I know the word and has to sit on the dotted line. And I know that the dotted line is as close to kind of perpendicular to the lines it's joining as possible. So since I'm joining these two lines together, I kind of want to make sure that I'm going across from those two lines. So that's where I'm going to put my dotted line. I'm going to put my and right on top. Now that leaves us on the bookcase. On, ding ding, relationship word. On the bookcase, does that describe the packet or where it was left? No, where it was left. So I put in an angle bracket, relationship word or preposition. Bookcase is my noun. And then we have the. That then leaves us with in the corner. In, ding ding, relationship word. What does in the corner describe? Where it was left? Well, not really. Where it was left is on the bookcase. The bookcase is what's being described as in the corner. So again, I put the prepositional phrase bracket in. I put in my preposition. I put in my noun. And then I put in the. So that is number 3. You ready to try another one? Okay, number 4. I'm going to look for my and. In this case, my and is inside a prepositional phrase. I have in her house and car. Well, that means I don't have to worry about that and until I get around to diagramming this whole prepositional phrase. So I'm going to, for right now, kind of ignore it. And I'm going to diagram what I know how to diagram. So what is the action? Looked. Does anything move me into past or present or future? Yep, had. Okay, what is it that's doing the looking? Student. So separate my subject from my verb. Okay, looked for the packet. So for the packet, does that describe the student or the looking? It's the looking. So for packet, the. Now I have to kind of start thinking about that prepositional phrase because I've run into it. In her house and car. Does in her house and car describe what kind of packet it is, the student, or the looking? Well, it's describing the looking. So we know the prepositional phrase bracket has to come from or under looking. So let me move that over a little bit because I want to leave myself some room. But normally my prepositional phrase bracket would look like this. The problem is that I don't have one noun that it's attaching to. I have two nouns. So I'm going to draw 2 parallel lines. And then I have the relationship word in. What is it in? Well, it's in house. That's one place she looked, but it's also in car. And then, of course, you join those two together with the and. Where does her go? Well, honestly, you've got a couple of options here. The first option is to say, okay, her is attached to house. And that certainly does work. I think there's a better answer. And the better answer is going to start with me diagramming in the first place. So I have where my preposition goes, in. I can actually go straight across for a little bit before I divide it into house, car, and. What is the advantage of that? Well, that would give me this little tiny bar before my prepositional phrase divides. Because if you look at the original, you have the prepositional line, and then it immediately divides out to the two nouns. So what is the advantage of having this? Well, I can actually put her up front. What does that do? Well, it does the same thing as in math when you put something outside the parentheses. You then know that that distributes to both parts. So that gives you 3x plus 3y. If you attach something before a split happens, whatever you put on that attachment before the split would attach to both of those elements. So it's the same as parentheses. So if you say the original here, let me change over to a highlighter. In this original, what you are saying is the her belongs only to house. So she doesn't own the car. Little awkward, but I would not count it wrong if you did this. I think the better answer is here. Because now this possessive, you're saying the house belongs to her, but because you put it before the line splits, you're also saying the car belongs to her. That her will distribute the way a number outside of parentheses distributes. Make sense? I hope so. Okay, number 5, I look for my ands. I have frantically and desperately, and those are describing the searching, so I know they're danglies. I'm not going to worry about it. I have in her room and bathroom, which means that's going to be in a prepositional phrase, another dangly, so I'm not going to worry about it. I have one main idea line, going to get that taken care of, and then I'll worry about stuff as I hit it. So what is the action? Search. Who's doing the searching? She. Do you have any helping verbs that move you on the timeline? No. So she searched. That is your main idea. Now let us start placing the danglies. So frantically and desperately, those two words describe the searching. Now I'm going to leave my frantically down a little bit. I'm going to leave myself some space. Because I have the word and that's joining these two. So I'm going to join those two to show that we have a connection between them. We then have in her room and bathroom. So that is a description of the searching. So I know I have to do a prepositional phrase. I am then, you know what? I want to move it over more because, dude, I got to have some space here. Diagrams are starting to get a little bigger, huh? So I know I have my preposition in. I think that her is going to describe both the room and the bathroom. So I want to leave myself a little bit of line here before I split it so that I have a place to attach her. What are the nouns that are attached? Well, where does she search? The first place was house. The second place was car. Her house and car. Her house and car. Now, if you look at the key, you will see that you don't have the her here. The her is attached here. And that's fine. If you put her up here, you're saying that her is only describing house. The car doesn't belong to her. I think it makes more sense to distribute it out to both words, but I'm not going to count you wrong if you put it here instead. So, one more, and actually it is the simplest of them in some ways, but it has a slightly different twist. For number 6, I have she was crying and swearing. So, we know that we have one subject, she. We know that that is splitting off into two actions, crying, swearing. She's having a bad day, I guess. Now, my question is, do I have any helping verbs that, I don't know, put it into past? Yes, was. Now, if I put was up here, then I am saying that crying took place in the past, but swearing is not. Swearing takes place in the present, which is weird. She's swearing. No. Okay, well, I can put was with swearing. She was swearing. Now that's right. But she crying. No. Gee, if only there were a way to distribute that helping verb was so that it would attach to both the crying and the swearing. How do I do that? I do believe that if you attach to the line before it divides, what that does is it distributes that word to both of parts of the branch. So, how do I make sure that this is on the verb side and not the subject side? Well, that's why you have a big line separating subject and verb. So now it's very clear that this is my subject side. On my verb side, I have one helping verb that distributes to both crying and swearing, and then all I need to do is put in and. Hopefully that helped.